A lack of proper support has been blamed for convicted offenders returning to a life of crime. Just last week, Police Minister Bheki Cele revealed that the suspect arrested in connection with a mass shooting in Khayelitsha was out on 800 rand bail. National Institute for Crime Prevention and the Reintegration of Offenders Operations Director Betzi Pierce joins me now for more. Betzi, when we take a look at the rate of recidivism in our country, where would you say we're sitting right now?
Well, it's only anecdotal evidence because we don't have recent research that shows us, but it's between 80 and 92%. So anecdotally, it's really high. And we see it in practice as well, where we see repeat offenders return for services.
What are the real challenges that you believe drive people back into a life of crime, despite that the fact that some may be convicted or even in this instance may already be facing charges?
There's multiple factors. You know, when we look at people who commit crime, there's no simple explanation. Not only is crime a societal problem, but it also needs an integrated crime prevention approach that asks for political will, for strong ethical leadership, and to look at systemic structural changes that need to be done. And then also to look at what do we have to offer, what resources and support systems do we have in South Africa. And there we fall flat because we do not have extensive services in all areas. We find, especially in our rural areas, it's wanting in terms of resources for people to stay away from crime. And then we've also got societal stigma, and people will be marginalized. They can't find jobs. They can't survive. So very, very often we get people that will go back to crime and go back to that support system instead of getting this healthy support system that they need.
Betzi, if we are to be more targeted, I mean, are there clear things that even research points to as being successful in helping to rehabilitate ex-offenders?
Yes. If we look at the risk factors and at the reasons why people are committing crime, and we address those, that is the most successful interventions that you can have, because you're removing the criminogenic factors, the factors that cause them to commit these crimes. And so it's very, very important when any offender is referred to you to do a full assessment and to look at where are these risk factors, and also then on the flip side of it, what protective factors would you find? Because you need to strengthen the protective factors and decrease the risk factors for someone to have to turn their lives around and to be able to grab the opportunities that they have around them. Because if you don't address those risk factors, people will just tend to go back into crime.
What happens where you have criminals directly involved with gangs, as what we see in many of some of these areas in the Western Cape?
That's a very, very difficult thing to change, because people are then already entrenched in criminal behavior, and you need really intensive programs to be able to pull them out of that, because now you need to be able to provide a form of a society almost, or a family where people can have that belonging. And if they're in a family or in a certain environment where they do experience belonging, you must also make sure that environment is has got social values and pro-social values and not anti-social values. So it's very difficult to go into that level and start changing people, but it's not as if you cannot. It can be done. Mm-hmm. But what we have realized is you need to go and work with younger people. You need to start working with people who, before they get involved in crime. And what CRA also especially does is we work in communities where we look at high-risk communities, and we mobilize the community to address some of the issues themselves, but we also provide services and programs where we can have alternatives and we can have development positions for people and development opportunities for people, so that they can actually, especially working with children, where they can complete school and where they can have some opportunities for future and have a constructive life and deal with their life stages and deal with all the issues that come across their paths. So if we work with the younger people, we've got a much more success. Even if we look at our diversion programs, where people are already in conflict with the law, but they're diverted from court proceedings, especially into when it's less serious and minor offences, and they're diverted to us, we've got a very high success rate with those people, because they are not entrenched in crime. We can address the risk factors, and they can turn their lives around and live a constructive life and never get involved in crime, because they've got so much to lose should they have had a criminal record with that offence. So that second chance is really grabbed and it's really utilised, because it gives them a second chance to life, and they can turn their lives around immediately. So although we work with offenders on all the levels, our best success rate is working with youngsters before they're retrenched in criminal offences, and then also with older people when they have just for the first time been in conflict with the law. We can still assist them to change their lives around.
Betzi Pierce, she's with the National Institute for Crime Prevention.